The Jets got to worry about if this deal doesn't, for some reason, happen around draft time, and they got players out there that they want to draft, and they can't draft them because they're sitting around waiting on the Green Bay Packers to make some decisions on what they want to do. It screws up both teams as far as I can see.
Well, in some ways, Key, I actually think the Jets have no problem if this goes beyond the draft. So before the draft begins, like 10 or so days before the NFL draft begins, teams begin their offseason workout programs, which is just lifting weights for the first few weeks. It's not like Aaron Rodgers is missing anything that he hasn't done plenty of times before, and there's no real football side of that other than just a little bit of camaraderie built. But if you're the Jets and this draft goes by and you have not made that trade with Green Bay, you're strengthening your roster, right? Because you're going to end up acquiring Aaron Rodgers, most likely for 2024 draft capital, but that means you have pick number 13, which they currently own. They now have picks number 42 and 43. They got pick number 43 in that trade with Cleveland for Elijah Moore last week. So all of a sudden the Jets are saying, well, if we want to be all in, the best way for us to be all in is to have all of our draft capital still available for this year.
Does that mean that the price goes up in terms of where, like for next year? So if it was a second, it becomes a first, et cetera?
I think the Packers will continue to argue that a first-round pick is the floor for Aaron Rodgers. A four-time MVP, right? I mean, this 2 years. Like, imagine if I told you
100 years old, though, Phil. I'm not giving him a first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers.
And then what happens?
To play for one season?
And then what happens if a team doesn't come to the table and say, like, what, are you just going to sit on that and eat that salary?
So this is it's going to get done one way or the other. But these are the sort of questions that the Jets in their game of chicken are asking to the Packers. You don't want to. You won't do it for a one.
But
Fine.
my question is,
take them back. What happens then?
My question is, they're not going to get the 13th pick. I mean, obviously, like that's.
I don't think. I mean, the Packers would certainly think they will. The Jets,
but I'm telling the Packers now, you're not going to get the 13th pick. So let's
not happening.
Like everyone
Kick
knows
rocks.
that, except apparently the Packers, right?
Right.
Because everyone has the same amount of leverage. It cancels. Like no one actually has leverage when everyone has.
I would
some
argue
leverage.
that as well. By the way, people keep asking who has more leverage. They both have leverage in different ways.
Right. So what I'm asking though, from before, what you said was interesting. For the Jets, if it goes to the 2024 draft, they're more all in for this potentially only season they have Rodgers. Yeah. Who knows, right? So does that mean that whatever the package would be in draft compensation this year, let's say a second and a third, if you push it a year, it becomes a first and a second? In other words, might the Packers also be better off taking that deal?
They might, and here's the other reason why, is that the Jets are going to believe that their draft picks next year are going to be inferior to their draft picks this year, right? I mean, the first-round pick this year is 13th. It might be 31st next year if things go how the Jets envisioned a Key. But beyond that is the further away you are from the draft, the more likely you are and comfortable you're going to part with picks, right? That might be somebody else's problem. Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas are probably sitting there saying to themselves, of course, we'd love to get Aaron Rodgers for like a 7th-round pick, but that's not going to happen. But if we have to give 2024 picks, we'll worry about 2024 and 2024. We're now focused in on finding a way to make the playoffs and make a deep run with Aaron Rodgers, a 4-time MVP. He's going to infuse us with more excitement and buzz and stability and upside than any quarterback has since Joe Namath. That's the focus for the Jets right now. And also, if you do push it out to 2024, one of the things that I do think becomes sort of interesting is the idea of a conditional pick. And, the NBA, there's always lottery protection, there's pick swaps. We don't really have a ton of conditional picks that are involved in trades in the NFL at the highest levels. You see, like, a 7th-round pick that could become a 6th-round pick if a guy plays at least 50% of the snaps. That could be interesting, though. If you're the Jets and you say to the Packers, all right, we're not going to get anything done this year, we value 13 too much, and you won't do it just for a 2nd-round pick or 2 2nd-round picks, what if we say to you, hey, 2024 is on the table. Our 2024 2nd-round pick is available to you. If we make the playoffs, it's a 1st-round pick. Or if we make the playoffs and we win the Super Bowl, it's a 1st and a 3rd round.
The Mike Tannenbaum, Brett Favre structure.
Yes, and I know that people and Tannenbaum did that with Favre in 2008. The picks were so much less significant. It was like a 4th that became a 3rd, something like that, right? It was not nearly this impactful, but there are ways to get creative. And I know when people hear about the salary cap of the NFL, their first thought is it's fake, and that's not true. We could do a whole show on why it isn't, but. One thing to be mindful of as far as deadlines are concerned, and this is going deep into the
it's fake, Phil. Salary cap's
it's not fake, Keith.
Kick the can down the road.
Got paid does not mean it was fake.
It's fake.
if the Packers trade Aaron Rodgers before June 1st, they're taking a $40 million dead cap hit on their cap. $40 million bucks that's allocated to Aaron Rodgers playing for the Jets.
They ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Hey, Max.
Well, hold on. But if they do it after that, Key, here's what gets interesting. They do it on June 2nd. Even if it's June 2nd at 12:01 a.m., that $40 million is split up. $16 million hits the cap this year, and $24 million hits the cap next year. So you're paying the price more in 2024, but all of a sudden you got $24 million more to play with this year. And if you're Green Bay, and again, the Packers don't want to trade Aaron Rodgers and then faceplant. They don't want to go 5-12 this year, right? They are making this move because they believe their franchise can be better off in the long run for it, like they did when they traded away Brett Favre and replaced him with Aaron Rodgers. If you have $24 million to spend, $24 million more than you currently would have if you traded Aaron Rodgers before June 2nd, that might be incentivizing to Green Bay. That could be a free agent addition during training camp. It could be an in-season trade. If nothing else, it's flexibility.
Belichick is entering his 10th season without Tom Brady as a starter when you add up the Cleveland years. He has one playoff win in those years, right? How much blame does he deserve? He buys the groceries. He cooks the groceries. At this point, for the Patriots' struggles, Field Yates.
It is an interesting question. I'm glad the Key brought it up because there's no two ways about it. Someone who grew up in that area and still lives in Connecticut, well, we're split down the middle. It's Patriots country. I guess it's sort of a third, and a third. There's a lot of Giants fans, lots of Jets fans as well. Like, you hear the angst and agony amongst Patriots fans right now. And I think sometimes what happens to me when you sort of follow all 32 is you take a step back and you're like, all right, things went as poor as they could possibly go last year. They were like 4-13, 5-12, or 8-9, right? Over the past 2 seasons, they have the 7th best point differential in the NFL, right? So the reality for the Patriots, I think, is 2 things. Is, first of all, you have this incredible run of success, and if you don't meet that level of that standard, it just changed. Like, you can't afford to go 7-10 or 8-9 for a couple straight years and expect fans to not become impatient. The other thing that's happened is that the landscape has dramatically shifted in the AFC. Think about the AFC East just by itself. I mean, the Patriots certainly don't have the sizzle of the Buffalo Bills roster with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Von Miller, players like that. When the Jets acquire Aaron Rodgers, obviously that roster takes on a different complexion. The Dolphins with Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, right? The Patriots for so many years have gotten by not just with obviously the greatest quarterback. We can debate that at a different show.
But
he's
the greatest
most accomplished quarterback of all time now, right? But also, like, they consistently out-schemed you, and they consistently got the most out of players. Is that enough right now? And I'm not sure that it is. They are the least blue-chip heavy team in the AFC East.
Who's
right
the GM?
now. About Bill Belichick, yeah.
Okay,
so, of course,
he put the roster together.
By the way, he said this last year before when the Patriots went into this quirky experiment with Matt Patricia as their offensive play caller. He said, everything falls at my feet. If this works out, if this doesn't work out, I'm the one who made this choice. Blame me. So he made the wrong decision last year, clearly, right? I think this team is fine. They're solid. Like, if they are the worst team in the AFC East next year, where would you go? I'm just curious. Like, where would you put them if they were in the NFC South right now? The Saints, Panthers, Bucks, and Falcons, right? Like, you'd think to yourself, like, maybe win it, right? So part of it's the landscape they play in, right? But you have to you have to think about your strategy differently when you're playing in a different division than you were for 20 years.
No longer benefit from a quarterback-less division, which they benefited from for 20 years.
Yeah, it could be the best quarterback division in the league next year. It seems like it's definitely in the mix.
I'm really concerned on this one, though. I would say barely over, just because I believe in Bill Belichick to get it done, even though I think where I am in that belief is starting to dwindle over time.
Been around Max.
Yeah, that's what happens, Key. 2 years now. He's doing it to me daily. I would say probably barely over, but it's going to be close, man. Just because I'm not a believer, regardless of bringing back Bill O'Brien or not a believer in Mac Jones, Key. I'm not.
I'm taking the over. I like Belichick's a good coach. I know he's a good coach. He can make lemonade out of lemons. The problem is he shopped for the lemons. He's the dude. He's the GM, but he can do more with less than a lot of guys. So I expect him to win, let's say 8-9 games. I don't expect him to go to the playoffs. I don't expect him to win a playoff game. but he won't be sorry. They'll be competitive. That's what he's been throughout his career without Tom Brady. A competitive head coach who doesn't get to the playoffs or win playoff games.
CK, I didn't take it that far. Max takes it super far.
I'm just describing reality. This is season 10 without Brady as a quarterback throughout Belichick's career. When you look at the record, he'll do okay. Probably miss the playoffs, and if he makes it, probably not win a playoff game. So but I'll take over 7.5.
Hey, Bill, can you come on the show?
Please.
Why would he say no? I'm not being unfair. I'm describing the record.
I'm out of town that day.
He might be the greatest coach who ever lived. That's saying a lot. I'm just saying it used to be for sure, and now it's maybe.
It used to be definitive for you.
Yeah, but he's still. But you might win that argument.
So who is the greatest coach?
It might be Belichick. It may be Walsh. It may be Parcells. It may be Andy Reid.
Not May. I'm asking you to choose one.
I haven't sat down and really argued it.
You should think about it.
But I would say maybe Belichick has the best case, or at least he's the leader.
Okay, I'm just saying you've been saying you don't know for a while now.
Because it didn't used to be an argument, and now it is.
Well, you need to replace the greatest with the greatest.
Argument with who? Yourself?
Yes, he's arguing with himself. Yes,
I did
arguing with yourself.
I did win a champion. I did win a Super Bowl in Madden once, simulating the season. It only took me 3 or 4 years simulating, but I did win.
So now he's saying there's no greatest of all time. That's what's happened. We no longer have any greatest.
Or maybe it's Belichick. I don't know. You think the GOAT coach could win a playoff game in 10 years? Be a second playoff.
Who's your greatest of all time?
Maybe Belichick.
Okay,
maybe.
So we came back around
maybe
to the same
Parcells.
conclusion.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.